I'll tell you straight, never in my life did I expect a simple ride home to turn into the most gut-wrenching night I'd ever lived through. I was just minding my own business when this tiny girl stepped out from the crowd, shaking so hard she could barely stand, tears streaming, and begging me not to leave. At first, I figured she'd gotten separated from her parents. But the moment she grabbed my vest and started tugging me toward an alley, something deep in my chest told me things weren't right. And when I finally saw what she was hiding back there in the dark, it damn near took the air right out of my lungs. It wasn't just trouble. This was a fight for survival, a mother hanging on by a thread, a kid with more courage in her little body than most grown men have in their whole lives. This wasn't some random run-in. It felt like something bigger, almost like fate putting me exactly where I needed to be. The sun was dropping behind the city skyline, throwing those long golden shadows across the rough downtown streets. I had just kicked down the stand on my Harley and tugged at my leather vest, trying to shake off the long day I'd spent at the garage. Nothing special. Oil changes, brake jobs, the usual headaches. I let out a long breath, ready to head back to my apartment and forget about engines for a while. But right as I turned the key, something on the sidewalk caught my eye. A tiny shape weaving between the evening crowd. At the far edge of the pavement, I finally saw her clearly. A little girl, couldn't have been more than 8. Dark tangled hair, wide eyes full of tears, she was trying hard not to spill. Her clothes were worn thin, dirty, and her face was smeared with dust. I froze. Kids didn't wander around this neighborhood at dusk. Not alone, not ever. I shut off the engine, swung my leg over the bike, and my boots hit the ground with a heavy thump. "Hey, kiddo," I called out, keeping my voice low and steady. "You all right? Where are your folks?" Instead of running away, she came straight toward me. Her little body trembled like she was freezing. She stopped right in front of me and let out this tiny broken whimper, one of those sounds that hits you right behind the ribs. Pure desperation in its rawest form. I crouched down so I wasn't towering over her, trying to soften my rough, bearded face the best I could. "Where's your parents, sweetheart?" Before I even finished the sentence, she spun around and hurried a few steps toward a narrow alley. Then she stopped, looked back at me, and reached out her small hand. She grabbed my vest with a strength that surprised me and pulled hard, her voice cracking as she pleaded, "Please help! Mama needs help! Please!" Those words hit me like a sledgehammer. This wasn't a lost kid wandering around. This girl needed something serious. And for reasons I can't quite explain, I felt like I didn't have a choice but to follow. "All right," I said gently. "Show me." She grabbed my hand with both of hers and pulled with everything she had. We moved past shuttered stores, graffiti-tagged walls, deeper into the forgotten part of the industrial district. And I noticed something. She didn't hesitate. She knew every step. She'd done this before. Too many times. We reached a skinny alley squeezed between 2 collapsing warehouses. I hesitated at the sight of all the darkness, every instinct warning me to be careful. "In there?" I asked. She nodded fast, tears rolling down her dirt-covered cheeks. "Mama, she's sick. She won't wake up right." My stomach dropped. I pulled out my phone, flicked on the flashlight, and stepped inside. The beam of light cut through piles of trash and the kind of smell you only find where people are barely surviving. The little girl moved ahead, stepping over debris like she'd learned the path by heart. Then I heard it, a weak cough, followed by a harsh, rattling breath that didn't sound right at all. My pulse kicked up as my light landed on a messy pile of blankets and cardboard, shaped into a makeshift shelter. "Hello?" I called out. The girl dropped to her knees beside the pile, clawing back a filthy blanket with frantic hands. "Mama, I brought help. I found someone good, like you said." I stepped closer, letting the flashlight show what was underneath. And the sight of her stopped me cold. A woman lay there, thin as paper, skin pale like moonlight. Her lips were cracked bloody, her hair matted together. She looked like she might have been in her late 20s, but life had beaten the youth out of her. This wasn't just homelessness. This was a person at the edge of dying. Her eyes fluttered open, blurry and distant. But when she focused on her daughter, something changed, just a tiny flicker of love fighting to stay alive. Her lips moved, but all that came out was a weak, broken breath. The little girl pressed herself against her mother's side, patting her face in panic. "Mama, wake up! Please, wake up!" I dropped down on one knee, trying to get closer to the woman. Her breaths came in short, shallow gasps, each one rattling like her lungs were fighting a losing battle. When I pressed my palm to her forehead, the heat shocked me. She was burning up, soaked in sweat, even though her body trembled like she was freezing. "How long has she been like this?" I asked. The little girl's voice came out barely above a whisper. 3 days, maybe 4. She stopped eating 2 days ago, stopped drinking yesterday. She told me to find somebody good, somebody who would help us. My eyes stung for a second, but I forced myself to hold it together. This wasn't the time to fall apart. This woman and her daughter needed someone solid right now, and that someone was somehow me. "What's your name, sweetheart?" I asked her gently. "Lily," she said. "And that's my mama, Grace." "All right, Lily. Folks call me Reaper. Sounds scary, I know, but I'm one of the good guys, and I'm gonna do everything I can for your mama." I shrugged off my leather vest and wrapped it around Grace's thin shoulders. Her skin felt so fragile it almost scared me. "Grace," I said softly, "can you hear me? I need you to stay with me, okay? Your little girl needs you to fight just a bit longer." Her eyes found mine, and in that split second I saw everything. The shame, the love, the fear, the exhaustion, and way under all that, a spark of hope. That look made the choice for me. She didn't have time. We had to move. "Lily," I said, "I'm going to carry your mama out of here. I need you right beside me. Hold on to my belt and don't let go." She nodded hard, her little jaw tightening with a kind of bravery most adults don't have. I slid my arms under Grace's body and lifted her. The shock hit instantly. She weighed almost nothing. Her head fell softly against my chest, and every single breath she took told me she was closer to slipping away than either of us wanted to admit. "I've got you, Grace," I murmured. "Your little girl didn't give up on you, and neither am I." "Lily, grab on." Her small fist clamped onto my belt, and the three of us started making our way back toward the street. I moved as fast as my arms would allow, ignoring the burn building in my muscles. Pain didn't matter. This woman's life did. I pulled out my phone with one hand and called my club brother. "Tommy, need you in Morrison now. Emergency. Bring the truck." "What's going on, brother?" "No time." 5 minutes. Every one of those minutes dragged like an hour. I stood there on the corner, holding Grace close while Lily pressed herself against my side, as if I was the only thing keeping her world together. Cars rolled past like nothing unusual was happening. People walked by without even glancing at us. Finally, Tommy's truck screeched up to the curb. I climbed into the back seat with Grace in my lap. Lily scrambled in beside us. "County General!" I barked. "Step on it." Tommy floored it, weaving through traffic like a man possessed. In the back seat, I held Grace tight, feeling each uneven breath shake through her frail body. Lily couldn't sit still. She kept pacing and crying under her breath. "You're doing great, Grace," I whispered into her hair. "Your little girl needs you. Just hang on." But her breathing kept slipping into patterns that scared the hell out of me. Uneven, shallow, wrong. "Stay with me," I muttered. "Don't you dare leave that little girl behind." Then the red emergency sign came into view, like a lifesaver thrown to a drowning man. Tommy swung into the lot, tires screaming. Before the truck even stopped, I was out the door with Grace in my arms. Lily ran ahead of me, her voice carrying across the lot. "Help! We need help!" "My mama!" The hospital doors slid open and I stormed through the bright fluorescent hallway. "I need help!" I yelled. "She's not breathing right. She's dying." A nurse snapped her head up, eyes widening as she saw the woman in my arms. Then her training kicked in. "Gurney, code blue now!" 2 orderlies rushed in with a stretcher. In seconds, a whole medical team swarmed around Grace. They slapped an oxygen mask over her face, started IVs, checked her vitals. The gurney began rolling toward the trauma bays. Lily tried to run after her mother, but a nurse held her back. "No, Mama! Mama!" she screamed, twisting in panic. I dropped to one knee and pulled her into my arms as she fell apart. She buried her face in my chest, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. I held her tight, my own eyes burning while I watched the gurney disappear behind swinging doors. "She's gonna be okay," I whispered, even though I had no idea if it was true. They're taking care of her now. An older nurse approached, clipboard in hand. She looked at the two of us, me clutching a crying child, and made a judgment call. Are you family? I looked down at Lily, still holding on to me like she had nowhere else to go. Yeah, I said softly. Yeah, we're family. Her face softened. I need information. Child's name is Lily, Lily Rose Martinez. Her mama is Grace Martinez, I told her. The nurse scribbled down the names, then looked back up at me with something like gratitude. You did the right thing bringing her in. Another hour and she didn't finish. Time crawled after that. We sat in those hard plastic chairs under cold mint green walls. Lily eventually cried herself to sleep in my lap. I stared at the clock as the second hand dragged itself around and around. And then an old memory surfaced. I was 8 years old again, sitting in a waiting room just like this, waiting for word about my mom dying of cancer while my father was off drinking somewhere. I remembered being terrified, all alone, with nobody to hold me. My mom died that night, and my father blamed me, told me I wasn't worth fighting for. For years I carried that weight, convinced myself I wasn't worthy of love, that softness was weakness. I built walls, joined the club, earned my patches through fists and loyalty, told myself needing nobody meant nobody could hurt me. But holding this kid, watching her fight with everything she had for her mother, I realized how wrong I'd been. Strength wasn't standing alone. Strength was showing up, even when your hands shook, even when you were scared. I looked down at Lily, curled against me, and something cracked open inside my chest. She'd been braver than I ever was. She'd walked through hell alone looking for someone who'd help her mom. She trusted me, a stranger. A tear slipped out before I could stop it, then another. Everything I'd buried for years came rushing out. I leaned over Lily and wept silently. For the boy I'd been, for the mother I'd lost, for the little girl who might lose hers too. Please, I whispered to the universe or God or whoever was listening, don't take her mother. This kid deserves better. Footsteps approached. A doctor in blue scrubs knelt in front of us. I gently shook Lily awake. Lily, honey, the doctor's here. Her eyes snapped open. Mama? The doctor smiled softly. Your mama is very, very sick, but she's stable now. We got her here just in time. The wave of relief hit me so hard I almost felt dizzy. Lily broke into tears, this time out of joy. She has a long recovery ahead, the doctor continued, but with proper treatment, yes. She should fully recover. Can I see her? Lily begged. Soon, the doctor said. She's sleeping now, but you can see her very soon. When he walked away, I wrapped my arm around Lily. See, I said gently, your mama's a fighter. She looked up at me, eyes shining. You saved her? I shook my head. No, kiddo, you saved her. You're the brave one here. She went quiet for a moment, then asked the question that hit me like a fist. What happens now? Where do we go? And that's when it hit me. When Grace got better, where would they go? Back to the streets? Into a system that might tear them apart? Something fierce rose up in me, protective in a way I hadn't felt in years. No, I wasn't letting that happen. You're not going back to that alley, I told Lily, my voice more solid than I expected. And nobody's taking you away from your mama either. I'll figure something out, I swear. The days that followed fell into a steady rhythm. Any free minute I had that wasn't spent at the garage, I spent at the hospital. I swapped shifts, stayed late, came in early, whatever it took so I could be there for them. The state had placed Lily in emergency foster care, but I made damn sure she could visit her mom every day. And every time she came to see Grace, I was right there beside her. Grace spent the whole first week in intensive care, her body slowly clawing its way back from the edge. I sat by her bedside almost every day, sometimes with Lily holding her mother's hand, and sometimes just me sitting in that stiff chair, talking softly even when she couldn't respond. I'd tell her about Lily's day, about school, about the drawings she made. The nurses started to know me by name. Their guarded expressions softened, and one of them even brought me a cup of coffee. You're a good man, she said simply. On the 5th day, Grace finally woke up. I was alone with her, reading the newspaper out loud. When I glanced up and saw her staring at me, I froze. Who? Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. I moved closer, keeping my tone calm. Easy. You're in the hospital. You're safe. And Lily's safe too. At her daughter's name, tears welled in her eyes. Lily, where is she? At school, I told her gently. She's okay. She's been here every day. I hesitated, then added, she found me. She led me to you. She saved your life. Grace closed her eyes as tears streamed down her cheeks. My brave girl. The bravest, I said quietly. When she opened her eyes again, she looked at me with a mixture of confusion and gratitude, studying my tattoos, my vest, my rough edges. Why did you help us? She whispered. I swallowed hard. Because someone should have helped me when I was Lily's age, and nobody did. And because your little girl looked at me like I was the only hope she had left. I couldn't walk away from that. Grace reached out a shaking hand. I took it gently. Thank you for not walking away, she whispered. Over the next few weeks, I learned their story, piece by piece. Grace had lost everything, her job, her home, her sense of hope. Sending Lily out to find help had been the last desperate gamble of a mother who'd run out of options. Find someone good, she told her daughter. As Grace slowly regained her strength, I saw the fear in her eyes every time a doctor mentioned the word discharge. Where would they go? Back to the streets? Into a system that would tear them apart? One evening after Lily fell asleep in the hospital bed beside her mom, Grace motioned for me to step into the hallway. I don't know how to thank you, she said softly, but we'll manage. I'll figure something out. She tried to hide the fear, but I could see it plain as day. I thought about my small apartment, the empty spare room I barely used. I have an idea, I said slowly. Just hear me out. 3 weeks later, when Grace was finally discharged, I pulled up to the hospital in my truck. I had cleaned the spare room from top to bottom, bought a new bed, hung up curtains, even put fresh sheets on the mattress. Some of my club brothers had donated clothes and toys for Lily. Grace stared up at my building with wide, overwhelmed eyes. I can't accept this, she whispered. It's too much. It's not charity, I said. It's a hand up. You'll get back on your feet, save some money, find your own place. But until then, you and Lily have somewhere safe. Lily bounced excitedly beside her mom. Can I really stay here? I knelt down so I could look her in the eyes. If your mama says it's okay. Grace looked between Lily's hopeful face and mine. She saw things most people never bothered to look for in me. Loyalty, protectiveness, a softness I kept buried deep under layers of armor. Okay, she whispered, but I'll pay you back every cent. No rush, I said, and I meant it. The first couple of weeks were an adjustment. I'd spent most of my life alone. Now suddenly, my apartment was full of noise and life. Grace insisted on cleaning, even though she was still healing. Lily scattered toys everywhere, filled the space with questions, jokes, and laughter. For the first time in years, the place felt lived in. Little by little, we fell into a rhythm that felt strangely natural. Grace applied for jobs, showing up to interviews even when she was exhausted. I taught Lily how to ride a bike in the parking lot, running beside her as she wobbled, laughing with her and catching her every time she fell. We cooked dinners together, bumping elbows in my tiny kitchen, sharing stories over cheap pasta and store-brand sauce. And some nights, after Lily went to bed, Grace and I would sit on the couch and talk about the dreams she lost, about how she wanted to go back to nursing school, about the guilt she carried, and I told her things I'd never told another human being, about my childhood, about the loneliness I'd buried so deep I forgot it was there, about how I didn't believe good things happened to men like me. Every morning I woke to the sound of Lily watching cartoons and the smell of coffee, Grace brewed, and something inside me shifted. For the first time in decades, I felt like I belonged somewhere. 3 months later, Grace landed a job at a medical clinic. When the call came in, she burst into tears, and I found myself wiping my own face too. I'd never felt so damn proud. The woman who nearly died in my arms was rebuilding her life piece by piece. Lily thrived in ways nobody expected. She made friends easily, brought home drawings from my fridge, and her teacher even called to say how resilient she was. Their world was mending. The guys at the club started noticing the change in me too. I laughed more, smiled more, showed up to rides with stories about Lily learning to ride a bike or Grace acing an interview. They teased me for going soft, but behind the jokes was respect. They knew what I'd done, what we'd built together. And still, every time Grace talked about saving for their own place, that familiar ache hit my chest. This was the plan. Help them get back on their feet, then let them move on. So why did the thought of them leaving feel like losing everything? One Saturday morning, Lily climbed into my lap. "When we move out, will I still see you?" she asked. "Of course," I told her. "Anytime." She shook her head. "I don't want to move out. I like living with you." Later that day, Grace sat across from me with a serious expression. "We need to talk about this," she said quietly. "Lily is getting attached, and I'm getting attached too. If this is temporary, I need to prepare myself." "It's not obligation," I said. "Then what is it?" she asked. I stood up, pacing because I didn't know how else to handle the pounding in my chest. "I don't want you to leave. I just didn't think you'd want to stay, not with someone like me." She took a slow step forward. "Someone like you?" she repeated softly. "You risked everything for us. You opened your home. You saved my life. You're exactly the kind of man Lily needs." Another step closer. "And you're the man I never thought I'd find." Before I could second guess it, I pulled her against me. "I love you," I said, my voice shaking. "Both of you. I know it's fast, but I love you." From the other room, Lily hollered, "Are you guys gonna kiss so we can stay forever?" Grace burst into tears and nodded. "Yeah, kiddo." Forever. Lily cheered as I spun her around the room. And in that moment, the truth finally hit me like sunlight breaking through clouds. Family isn't about blood. It's about choosing each other. Again and again. That night, when Lily was asleep, Grace curled against me and whispered, "I never thought I'd feel safe again. Or that Lily would have a home, a father who loves her, a real future." "I never thought I'd feel whole," I admitted. "I didn't know what I was missing until you two showed up." She looked up at me with teary eyes. "We saved each other, didn't we?" "Yeah," I said softly. "We did." The little girl who once tugged a stranger's vest out of desperation had found a family. The mother who prayed her daughter would survive finally had her answer. And the biker who spent years believing he wasn't worth loving learned the truth. Sometimes the smallest cry for help leads to the biggest miracle. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were home.